coming to Japan? Well, there are some things that you should know before coming here. My name is Marcelo, and on this video, I'll hopefully be helping you get informed on Japan's most interesting and quirky aspects before you actually set foot on the land of ramen noodle and anime. So with no further ado, let's get right into the video. So the first thing that I noticed when I came to Japan for the first time, right even before I got off the plane, was how different the toilets were. It has become almost common knowledge by now that the Japanese toilets are quite odd and different than the good old Western style toilets. But the Japanese toilets are just on another level. The Japanese toilet has a bidet installed in it, so not only does it wash your bum, but it also warms up your cheeks for those cold winter days. It can also play music or the sound of hummingbirds for those days when you eat spicy Korean food that you can't even pronounce. Talking from experience here. So that others cannot hear the ungodly sounds coming from your bathroom stall. And if you're a female, you're in luck because with the press of a button, you can wash your other areas as well. Anyways, you probably got the point. One thing that you should know before using those toilets is that sometimes they don't have the Western style levers that you pull to flush whatever you did there. So when they don't have a Western style lever, you probably have to push a button that probably has one of these symbols or drawings. However, just be careful when you press the button to not press the wrong button, as you might be not so pleasantly surprised by either a squirt up your bum or extremely loud classical music coming from your bathroom stall. Also talking from experience. Okay. Now that the elephant in the room has been mentioned, let's get into less gross topics and talk about something that I loved when I came here for the first time that is quite different from back at home: the food. Now this is a broad topic as Japan probably has the most diverse menu out of any country that I know, as half of the stuff they eat is raw, which really opens up a whole new genre when it comes to food and lets you have really interesting foods such as raw horse, which is a very common and liked dish by many Japanese people. But let me tell you the basics about Japanese food that you need to know before you come here. So let me get the elephant out of the room very quickly again by telling you something that probably 99% of you know by now, which is that Japanese people use chopsticks. But worry not, as many restaurants have forks hidden in an old drawer for the occasional tourist that does not know how to use chopsticks. With that out of the way, let's talk about the more interesting aspects of Japanese food that you probably didn't know about. When I arrived in Japan, I was very surprised by this one, which is that they do not tip at Japanese restaurants or bars or cafes or at any establishments. It is believed that staff at a restaurant and a bar should always give their 100%, and their performance should not be influenced by an outside motive such as a tip. So even if you feel like a server has done a great job and you want to give them a tip, maybe don't give them a tip, as they'll probably be very confused with the money that you gave them and probably give it back to you. So instead of making their day happier, you probably made their day more stressful and sad because they do not know what to do with the situation. And expanding on this topic, something that I did not like when I came to Japan is the table charge culture, which is basically their way of going around the fact that they cannot receive tips and charge you for sitting down at a table. Now let me explain this a little bit better, as majority of the bars in Japan and some restaurants use this method to make a little bit of extra money. So once you walk into an establishment and you sit down, if they give you a small side dish such as edamame beans or pickled seaweed, well my friend, that means that you were just charged some extra money. Now it isn't that much money, but it usually goes between 300 yen and 500 yen, which is about $3 or $5, and this is per person. Now this table charge comes in many different ways, and some of them can be very sneaky. Some restaurants will just straight up charge you for just sitting there. They will not even give you a side dish or anything. A very popular place where you can see this happening is Golden Gai in Tokyo, which is a super touristy area where you can be charged upwards of 1,000 yen, which is about $10, for just sitting down at the restaurant, and most times they will not even give you a side dish. So we are in Golden Gai, and I was here 2.5 years ago, and everything was free, I remember. Like you could just walk in a bar, maybe they give you a little food and you pay like 300 or something, but nowadays it's like 1,000 to go inside each bar, and it's pretty empty, so I'm not sure what's going on. Maybe it's because of COVID, or I'm not sure. Or sometimes another way that they use to make some extra money is that they will force everybody sitting at your table to buy a drink and food. No matter if you're not interested in buying drinks or food, or if you're just interested in buying drinks, or if you're just interested in buying food, they'll force you to get both, which is another way that they use to make some extra money. Anyways, Japanese drinking culture and eating culture is quite fun, so don't let a mere table charge stop you from having a fun night. The way I see it, you don't have to tip them, but you have to pay table charge. So at the end of the day, it's just the same thing. And the last section about food is about rice. Now, Japanese people love their rice, and I love it as well. Japanese rice is super good, and it goes well with many, many dishes. And I'm not exaggerating when I say that Japanese people praise their rice like it is a god, because there literally is a god for rice. Now, I'm not a history major, so I don't know exactly what this is all about, but with many Japanese friends, I have left a little bit of rice on the bowl, and they have called me out on it, saying that the Japanese rice god will be angry at me, which means that I should eat every little grain of rice on the bowl. If I leave even one grain of rice on the bowl, the Japanese god might get angry at me. So, when you eat with your Japanese friends, try not to leave any grains of rice left over on your bowl or on your plate, because that's kind of disrespectful for the chef probably and for the Japanese rice god. Now with that all out of the way, let's go to the next topic. So I'm living in a Japanese household, and as you can see, I'm not wearing any shoes. And that's very common in Japanese households. And it was also common where I was back at home in Canada, as your shoes are totally covered in salt and snow if you come from outside, so you probably have to take them off at the doorstep. But if you're from other countries like America or Brazil or other countries, you're probably used to walking in your house with the shoes that you walked outside with. Now, do not do this in Japan, as it is very disrespectful and people will not like that one bit. Japanese houses, some restaurants and spas and onsens, a lot of places they have designated areas where you should take your shoes off before entering that place. Now, why they do this is pretty obvious. It is believed that your shoes, you're walking with them outside and they get very dirty, and if you walk inside with your shoes, you're bringing all that dirt from the outside to the inside. And a lot of the Japanese houses, like the one that I'm in right now, has tatami mats, which is a rice mat. And if you're walking on the tatami mat with your shoes, the tatami mats will get super dirty. So it is just something that I am personally already used to it, because that's what I did back in Canada anyways. Now, I'll give you more examples of these places that I didn't expect that you have to take your shoes off, that I myself made a mistake on. One of them was at a clothing store, at Uniqlo for example. When you go to Uniqlo and you find clothes that you want to try on, if you go to the change room, you have to take your shoes off. And the change room has a little designated area where you put your shoes and you walk in the change room and you try the clothes on, which makes a lot of sense. Anyways, it's something that you get used to pretty quickly. I just automatically take my shoes off whenever I go to these places anyways now. Now the next topic is about cigarettes. I'm not a smoker myself, but I have friends who smoke, and all of us thought it was very odd when we came to Japan and found out that you can basically smoke everywhere. Now this is getting better over the years, but now as of 2022, about maybe 90% of izakayas, which are Japanese style bars, you can smoke inside them still. So it's not really a big deal for me. I don't care about it so much, but I have many friends that just simply don't go to izakayas where you can smoke inside them, because if you go inside izakaya where people smoke, first of all, it's super bad for your health, and second of all, you leave the izakaya smelling like a cigarette factory. Now, many other places do this as well, like nightclubs or bars or restaurants. Many places in Japan you can smoke inside, which is great if you're a smoker, but if you're not a smoker like me, you would just leave the place smelling like a cigarette factory, as I said. It's just kind of disgusting. It's not something that I'm very used to, but thankfully, it's getting better. I'm seeing many restaurants put up signs saying no smoking allowed. Another thing that I found quite odd is that vaping is illegal here, vaping with nicotine. And that is very surprising for me, because back in Canada, in Vancouver where I'm from, vaping is like such a big culture. Like every Canadian guy that I know has like 10 vapes. Every Canadian girl that I know has like 10 vapes. So coming here, vaping being illegal is very strange for me. And cigarettes being legal and advertised everywhere and sold at vending machines is such a huge contrast. So it makes me wonder, like, why this happens. Now, it is quite obvious that the government and the tobacco companies are very linked together and they make money together. They help each other out. So anyways, it isn't something that bothers me so much. But if you don't like cigarette smoke smell, well, it isn't something so great. Another topic that I mentioned previously a little bit before is vending machines. Vending machines are just great here in Japan. They're everywhere. They're out in the middle of nowhere. They're in the city. They're like in every corner. They sell just about everything. They sell ramen, they sell cigarettes, beer. If you can think of anything right now, they probably sell it in a vending machine here in Japan. They even have vending machines for girls' used panties. But vending machines are great because they're cheap. Their price is cheaper or the same as a convenience store. And here in Japan, where the seasons are crazy on all over the place, being super hot in the summer and cold in the winter, well, the vending machines got your back. They will hydrate you in the summer with a cold, refreshing drink, and in the winter, they can give you a nice, hot cup of joe. All for about 140 yen, which is about $1. Another good thing about vending machines is that they accept your transit. That's the train that goes by my house every day. It's very loud. Anyways, you can hear it coming right now. Anyways, one good thing about the vending machines is that they accept your transit card, which you probably have, since you go just about everywhere in the country using a train. So once you load up your transit card with some money, you can use that transit card to go in the train, or you can use it to buy some drinks in the vending machines or convenience stores or anything like that, which is very useful. The next topic is about convenience stores. Now, it is also a widely accepted fact that Japanese convenience stores are just the best. They're just superior in every way. I also heard that Korean convenience stores are very good, but I have never been to Korea, so I cannot judge. But let's talk a little bit about Japanese convenience stores and why they're so good. Well, Japanese convenience stores, they just have everything. Not just chocolate bars or soda drinks or energy drinks or M&M's, Skittles. They have everything that you can imagine. Like they have frozen ramen, they have vegetables sometimes, they have just about everything. It is also a large focus for convenience stores here in Japan to sell you healthy food because a lot of people, they don't have time to cook. A lot of people, they don't have time to go to a restaurant. They only have time to go to the convenience store to grab a quick meal. And people here in Japan are very healthy. So people will often choose a healthy meal other than a Snickers bar or M&M's for their lunch, which happens quite often back at home in Canada and America. So it is a pretty big contrast and I was pretty shocked to see that. But one of the first things that you'll probably do when you come to Japan and that you should probably do when you come to Japan, go to a convenience store, buy some convenient food. It's very cheap, it's affordable unlike Canada or America. It's very affordable, cheap, and it's just delicious. My favorite is the rice balls. They're $1 each, and they're filled up with like tuna mayo, or they have other flavors like salmon. They have tons of flavors, and it's just amazing. I really recommend them. I have another recommendation, which I made a video about. I have found my new favorite drink, mango frappe at Family Mart. So good. Seriously, I really recommend it. Anyways, let's go to the next topic. Now let's talk about the people a little bit. This will largely vary between each city that you go to, but let's focus in Tokyo and Osaka as they are the biggest cities in Japan. Now let's start with Tokyo. I myself and my friends and basically everyone that I know believe that the people in Tokyo are cold, and sometimes people think that they're robotic. Now if you go to Tokyo, and I've myself been to Tokyo many times, if you go there, for example, if you go on a train and you sit down, the people in the train will never look at you. Your eyes will never cross. They'll just sit there wearing their business suit and they'll just look at their phone. Very robotic. Like back in Canada, everybody will look at each other. If somebody walks in the train, people will look at that person to check if they're homeless, to check if they're a threat or something like that. But here in Japan, as there's not many homeless people, well, people just don't look at each other. People just look at their phone. They're shy. They don't want to make conflict with other people by looking at them, making them embarrassed or something. So they just look at their phone or they close their eyes and sleep. Now going more to Osaka, the people are quite different there. The people are more loose. They're more lively. They're more funny. They laugh more. They're more open-minded too. So Osaka is more famously known for their comedy. All the comedy in Japan basically will come from Osaka. All the comedians in Japan will come from Osaka because it's just a funny place. People don't really care there. Like people will be drinking in the trains, which doesn't usually happen in Tokyo. Like in Osaka, if there's a red light, people are just gonna jaywalk, which doesn't happen in Tokyo like at all. People don't jaywalk in Tokyo unless you're like a gaijin. But in Osaka, people just jaywalk. Now, it doesn't happen throughout all of Osaka. Like it will happen mostly in like Namba. But it's just something refreshing to see here in Japan, which is one of the big reasons why I love Osaka way more than Tokyo. Thank you so much. Yep. Can I make the video now? So all this brings me to my next topic. So if you ask any of my Japanese friends or any Japanese person in general, one thing that they don't like about foreigners or one thing that annoys them about foreigners, they'll probably say that we are too loud. Now, it makes a lot of sense for them to say that we are too loud because just cultural differences. In Canada, for example, where I'm from, you can call somebody in the train, no problem. I can call my parents in the train, I can call my friends in the train, no problem. Nobody cares, nobody will be insulted at you. People are just talking in the trains are very loud. But here in Japan, the train is a quiet environment. You cannot talk very loud in the train or at all. You cannot call somebody in the train, which is something that you should never do in Japan. Don't call somebody in the train, as it's very disrespectful. Or in the bus, don't call somebody in the bus. Actually, I had one time where I was with my friend and they called somebody in the bus and the bus driver stopped the bus and announced on the bus speakers like, "Do not call somebody on the bus," very loudly. It was very rude of the bus driver, but they probably thought that my friend was extremely rude too. And my friend was being very quiet on the phone because they were aware that talking on the bus on the phone was very bad, but the bus driver still stopped the bus and screamed at them. It was during broad daylight too. Pretty crazy. Just never do that in a train or a bus. Never call somebody on a train or a bus. Americans are kind of famously known for being loud, as there's a lot of military bases here in America, and you know, military guys from anywhere in the world, they'll be loud, you know what I mean? Like they'll be screaming, they'll be drinking, you know, like that's just military guys in general, honestly. But if you don't want to be part of that stereotype, try to be more quiet. You get used to it pretty quickly. I got used to it after one day. However, one thing that you cannot get used to, at least I can't, which is my next topic, is the weather here in Japan. Now, with the global warming and all, you probably know that the weather is just getting crazy all over the world, and here in Japan, it's no different. In the summer, it'll be disgustingly hot throughout majority of Japan, especially Tokyo and Osaka area. Like the big cities will be like incredibly hot. It will be upwards of 40 degrees Celsius, like 110 Fahrenheit, and the humidity would just be like 100% humidity. And another thing that adds to this is that every little tiny stores, and there's many tiny stores here in Japan, every little tiny store has an air conditioning unit. And how air conditioners work is that they will pump cold air on one side and hot air out the other side. So if you have 10 air conditioners pumping cold air inside, the inside will be super cold, sure, but outside is just pumping that hot air outside. And since the streets are so narrow and small, well, that hot air has nowhere to go. And since there are so many buildings, well, there's no natural wind coming by, so that hot air will just stay there and stagnate, and it'll just get hotter and hotter and hotter with the sun rays and everything. It's just crazy, crazy hot. I actually went to the zoo in Tokyo, and that was probably the hottest day that I've ever experienced in my life. I was wearing a t-shirt and shorts, and I was getting dizzy. Like I felt like I was gonna faint. Seriously, I was drinking lots of cold liquids. I was like spraying water on myself. So what I want to tell you guys is that you should come prepared when you come to Japan. If you're coming during summer season, come with shorts, lots of t-shirts, like summer clothes, sandals, flip-flops. And then winter is a whole different story. Well, it really depends on where you are in Japan, but places like Hokkaido, for example, they can get 6 feet of snow, 7, 8, 10 feet of snow sometimes, which is a lot of snow. Places like Tokyo and Osaka, they will get less snow. Tokyo will get snow just about throughout the whole winter. Osaka sometimes doesn't get snow at all in the winter. But no matter what, pretty much everywhere in Japan except Okinawa will be pretty chilly in the winter. So it's a pretty seasonal place. We have all 4 seasons here in Japan. So you have to come prepared for that. Another topic that I want to talk about is language. Now, I myself speak English, Portuguese, and Spanish. Well, they don't speak English, Portuguese, or Spanish here in Japan. So I don't go out there trying to talk English, Portuguese, or Spanish with them. If I know someone, a Japanese person, and I know that they can speak a little bit of English and they want to practice English, then I'll speak English with them. But many Japanese people will think that it is rude to speak English with them if you don't know them. What me and many other people can see here in Japan is that foreigners would just go to Japanese people. There's the afternoon tone thing, the evening tone thing, so which means it's 5 p.m. now, yeah, on the dot. People are going back home from work now. It's like that time of day. Can I make the video, please, Japan? Another thing that Japanese people get quite annoyed at foreigners is that a lot of times foreigners will come here to Japan and they would just automatically try to talk English with everyone. Well, unfortunately, not everybody speaks English here. You should come to Japan knowing a few words first before you go to a restaurant to order something, or before you go out there and trying to speak to people, as many people here do not speak your language. Another small thing that you should know before coming to Japan is that Japan is a cash-based country. So they do not use credit cards, they use cash for 99% of things here. So I recommend that you come here with some amount of Japanese yen in your wallet with you. I myself came here with $250 worth of yen, which is about 25,000 yen. And that was enough to last me about like 3 days, just because I was spending so much on the first few days, like going from the airport to my hotel, paying for the hotel and etc. And everything was done with cash. Nothing was done with credit card or debit card. So before you come to Japan, make sure with your bank that you can take out money from an ATM in Japan, and they should not block your credit card or debit card if they see transactions here in Japan. Another thing that I want to tell you about is how people walk in different cities and how they use escalators in different cities. So we drive here on the left, and we also take escalators on the left if you are in Tokyo. However, something that a lot of people don't know when they come to Japan is that Osaka and other prefectures here, they don't have this rule, they have a different rule. The rule is that in Osaka and other prefectures, you stick on the right side of the escalator instead of on the left side of the escalator, which is really interesting. So that was something that shocked me and surprised me when I came here too. Now, another topic that I want to quickly go over is deodorant. Now, deodorant here in Japan is very limited, as Japanese people don't usually smell from their armpit. So if you go to the store here in Japan, you have very limited options, to say the least. So a lot of my gaijin friends, my Western friends, they will ship deodorant from America, which ends up costing a lot of money. So if you're coming to Japan and you're gonna stay here for a while, well, be sure to bring deodorant. Maybe bring a 6-pack of deodorant. It depends on how long you're gonna stay, but if you're gonna stay for a year, I recommend you bring at least a 6-pack, because you're gonna need it, because I'm out and I'm buying that Japanese deodorant and it's not good. Now, something that is very common here in Japan that is very liked by tourists and by Japanese people are onsen. Onsen are basically hot springs, natural hot springs, where men and women separately will go totally naked to bathe in that natural hot water. It's really fun. It's well known for a reason. Well, to my surprise and to some of my friends' surprise, you cannot go in those onsen if you have tattoos. And I myself have tattoos. But sometimes you can buy tape, athletic tape, and you can cover up your tattoos with athletic tape, quite a bit of it I recommend. And you can go in the onsen and nobody will say anything. I have done that recently and it worked. Nobody said anything. I put a lot of tape on it. One of the bad things though is that the tape glue will start loosening up with that hot water and it'll start peeling. So there's like a time limit of how long you can stay in the onsen. If you want to stay there for hours, well, maybe tape isn't such a great solution, but it's the only solution that I myself found. Nobody said anything. It was fine. Nobody looked at me like, you're a gaijin. I'm like kind of blonde. I went there. People were looking at me weirdly anyways. Like people were looking at my dick, for example, a lot, because they're like, oh, this is a foreigner. So people were looking at me down there a lot anyways, but you know what? Like, if you're a foreigner going into a Japanese place like that, you have to expect people to look at you weird anyways. So guys, that is the end of this video right now. I'm very excited to start seeing more foreigners here in Japan and see if they make any of the mistakes that I told you guys to avoid. Anyways guys, if you liked the video, please leave a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment. This video took a very long time to make and to record, so it would be very appreciated if you could do that for me. I have tons of other videos talking about Japan and about my travels, so if you're interested, please check them out. And that's about it. So I'll see you guys next time. Thank you for watching.